Do you want to know what's on the other side of that door? You don't want to know what's on the other side of that door. But I'm going to leave it open because I feel like a lot of people are disturbed by it, and the mystery is always fun. You know, you gotta dangle something in front of the fans to get them to be like, what's behind that door? What's on the other side? What's in that infinitely black abyss of a hallway you have, Matt? I'm like, that's what your imagination is there for. Okay, so we got a new VIVRE card booster pack release. This will be pack number 6. And thanks again to Artor Senpai, Sama, Lord, King, God, Emperor, whatever title I'm going to give him this week. The links to the Library of Ohara and his Patreon are found below. This one is actually a little shorter than all the other ones. The other ones I usually take like 40-50 minutes to get through. These are not going to take that long. This is mostly the original members of the Blackbeard crew, which sounds really crazy, right? And we're going to be covering them mostly, but really beyond the initial members like Lafitte and Burgess, Augur, Q, and Blackbeard himself, Marshall D. Teach, we really don't have a lot of other stuff here. I mean, we got a lot of stuff on the Skypeans, so if you were ever interested that Pagaya, Konus's father, is a sky engineer, well, there you go. He's a sky engineer. He probably went to Sky Technical Institute and he got a Sky Masters in Sky Waiver Engineering. I don't know. But, you know, we get some stuff about that, but nothing really all that crazy. So let's start with the information. Actually, you know what? Let's start with heights. All right, because I've been on this quest. I've been fascinated with the very large beings of the One Piece world, and I'm finally happy that we're getting some information on, like, okay, where does Wadatsume stack up to San Juan Wolf? Where does the Kraken stack up to Oars, you know, to standard giants? You know, I really love that stuff. It really helps with the world building whenever Oda comes out and gives, like, okay, Big Mom is this tall compared to Whitebeard, compared to a giant, you know? So, Wadatsume, who is the pufferfish fishman, he's only 25 years old, by the way, so not, you know, you never wonder, because with Wadatsume, it's like he acts like a child a lot of times, like he's just a bratty child that doesn't know any better, so you could have come out and said Wadatsume was actually 8 years old, and I'd be like, you know what, I could actually buy that. But at any rate, Wadatsume's height is confirmed to be 80 meters tall. Okay, now, I don't know if that means 80 meters at his, like, standard. I would assume that's what it means. But then remember, Wadatsume, he's a pufferfish, so he can literally just suck in a bunch of oxygen and just boofs. He, like, expands even more to the point where he was several times his original size, and that was when, you know, Jinbei, like, popped him like a balloon, and then Sanji kicked him into oblivion with Hell's Memories, which Sanji really hasn't busted out Hell Memories a lot after that, has he? He needs to bust that out again. That was an epic attack. But anyway, yeah, so far, if we're just gonna go with 80 meters as his standard, from what we've seen so far, the largest creatures in One Piece, at least, like, the tallest ones that have been confirmed so far, we got the Kraken, Tsurume, at the very top. Like, it's not even close. Like, Tsurume, once he, like, stretches out his entire, like, all of his tentacles and he gets super tall, granted, he might not be able to do this on the surface, but underwater he would be able to. He is 300 meters, or 984 feet tall. And then he is followed by San Juan, who is 180 meters, or 590 feet tall. So, yeah, and then after that we have Wadatsume, and then after that we have Oars. Remember back when Oars was, like, the largest thing ever? This giant dude on Thriller Bark that the Straw Hats all had to team up in order to fight and defeat, you know, properly, that we thought, like, Oars was the hugest. And as for Oars Jr., he is 1 meter shorter than Oars, so he's the same basic height. But yeah, in terms of shortest to tallest, it goes Oars Jr., then Oars, Wadatsume, then San Juan, then Tsurume. If he would just stretch out all of his tentacles. Now, also keep in mind, you got, like, giant sea leviathans in the Sea Kings that are probably even larger than Tsurume. So, just throwing that out there. But I was always curious about Wadatsume's size, so we got that. Alright, so let's move on to Blackbeard. Let's talk about him. Okay, so this has already been revealed, but Blackbeard, in case you were curious on his age, because I forgot how old he was, he's 40 years old right now, which means he was 38 during the time of, like, when he was introduced in Jaya, so he was 38 back then. Okay. So, probably the biggest thing about Blackbeard that's revealed here, because a lot of this stuff is just standard, like, Blackbeard was the person to scar Shanks' face with that, like, Wolverine claw attachment he had while on Whitebeard's crew. We already knew that. He's the Admiral, his bounty, we already know all of this stuff. Something interesting. You know how back before the before the time skip in the first part of One Piece, when Blackbeard was being considered for the warlord position, it was very odd that he didn't have any bounty. They would always ask, well, what bounty does Blackbeard have? And it was like 0. He doesn't have a bounty. Those are two very different things, apparently. Like, it's not that he didn't have a bounty, like he didn't have a wanted poster or anything, like nobody knew who he was. No. What this information seems to suggest is that he had a wanted poster, except the number on the wanted poster was just 0. Now, you might say, well, what's the difference? It's like, well, that's a little freaking weird, don't you think? The only way I can think that makes sense, why the Marines would go out of their way to issue a bounty for somebody without actually giving them a bounty, but just throwing up the wanted posters everywhere, the only way I could figure that is they're looking at Whitebeard's crew, and they see the people that are the heavy hitters on Whitebeard's crew. Obviously, you have Whitebeard himself. Then you have Marco. Then you have, well, Ace didn't join up until a little later, but then you have Jozu and Vista, people that have been on the crew for a very long time. They're obviously going to give all those guys the huge bounties, right? But what about all the random riffraff soldiers hanging out on the crew? Like, if the Marines were to capture, like, a random cabin boy of the Whitebeard crew, I mean, like, it's good to at least have a wanted poster of that random cabin boy so you can look at it and you'd be like, hey, you're some no-name pirate, but you're a no-name pirate that's on Whitebeard's crew, which means you might have some valuable information. You might not have any power or any notoriety or any skill whatsoever to speak of. You yourself are not a threat to the world government, but you are connected to a Yonko. So the only way I can figure this is with all the Yonko crews, at least, the Marines, whenever they are in the middle of a battle or they get, like, a picture, they take snapshots of all the members of the crew or whatever, they'll make sure to give the Yonko commanders and the heavy hitters, they'll give them high bounties. But everybody else that they see, even if they're just random foot soldiers and riffraff, they'll issue a wanted poster for every single one of them, even if they have no idea who they are, or maybe they might not even know their proper names. It might not even be like Marshall D. Teach, bounty 0. It might just be a picture of Blackbeard and a bounty like 0 and be like, this man is a member of the Whitebeard crew. We know that much. He's not that powerful. He doesn't play that big of a role, most likely. We don't even know his name. But he's on the crew. His bounty's 0. So that way, if the Marines or if the bounty hunters ever come across him and, capture him, they can look at oh, check this out. This guy. Or it might not even be just like one bounty poster for just Blackbeard back when he was on the crew. The Marines might issue like, here is a poster with like a bunch of different pictures on it. Like, these are all members of the crew. Their bounties are nothing, but these are all members of the Whitebeard crew. So keep that in mind just for reference. So there you go. I think that's what they meant. Because up until this point, I just assumed that he didn't have a wanted poster. The Marines didn't even know who he was. The Marines certainly knew who he was. It's just they figured he's laying low because that was Blackbeard's plan the whole time. Not cause a scene. Don't rise to the position of division commander. Don't create a big stir in the world. Just lay low until you can, until his time to get the Yami Yami no Mi, which he did. And so, yeah, so that was just a little bit of an interesting dichotomy there. I wasn't really sure about, like, the difference between no bounty or 0. No, there is a difference, apparently. Originally, Oda had the idea of Blackbeard to wear an eye patch, and he decided against it. Now, this was interesting because Oda, I've brought this up, Oda likes, the very stereotypical designs of pirates back in the day, like, pirates have hooks for hands, pirates have peg legs, pirates have eye patches and go yarg, and they sing yo-ho-ho-ho, He gives these traits to very important characters in the One Piece world. He gives Crocodile the hook hand, very prominent character. He gives Zeph the peg leg, which Zeph might not be that prominent right now, but is significant role in the story, in Sanji's upbringing, especially during Totland. He gives Brook, who is a member of the Straw Hats, the yo-ho-ho-ho laugh. So who's going to be the Eyepatch pirate? If there was going to be anybody to be the Eyepatch pirate, it'd be cool if it would have been Blackbeard, because Blackbeard is probably the main villain of the entire series. I mean, there's other characters like Im-sama and the world government themselves as one entity you could throw in there, but if you were just going to pick, like, here is the bad guy Luffy needs to beat the crap out of by the end of the series, that's going to be Blackbeard, right? So, yeah, they consider considered him having an eye patch, but they decided against it. I think personally Jinbei is going to have the eye patch. He's going to show up. I might even make a video about this because I've heard some really wacky theories about Jinbei. I apparently did not take it far enough. I always just thought like Jinbei's going to come to Wano, have an eye patch, maybe have a few more scars, maybe missing an arm or something. No, some people are thinking like, no, Jinbei was straight up killed by Big Mom and turned into a homie, but the homie retains the memories because of Pudding. Pudding helped Jinbei out. Jinbei left Hotland and is now heading to Wano. Like, come hell or high water, he'll get to Wano, and that makes the speech that Luffy had to Jinbei at the end of Totland even more palpable. Like, you know, even if you die, don't die, come back here. That would make it even the more poetic if he did die, but he came back and then made it to Wano. So I might make a whole video just about that, thoughts about Jinbei, but yeah. Other than that, involving Blackbeard himself, the only other pieces of information that are of note here are, number one, he grew up in the Grand Line, so that was confirmed. And number two, it is confirmed that he possesses 2 devil fruits because of something with his body being different. Okay, now this was something that was stated by Marco as soon as it happened. As soon as Blackbeard came out of that cloak behind Pops and he has the Gura Gura and the Yami Yami, the first thing Marco came up with is like, man, that man's body is so unusual. It's so abnormal. That's probably something because of that. Now, you might think, well, this is no new information. Well, it kind of is because it's a confirmation one way or the other. I just did a live stream a few days ago and somebody asked the question about, I've seen this theory before, but people brought up, he's like, oh, maybe it's Blackbeard's rings, you know, because Blackbeard always wears all those rings. Maybe he figured out a way to put the Gura Gura no Mi in one of the rings, and then that was the source of the power. You know, that's not a bad theory. It's just I didn't like it because I felt like that was kind of a cop-out. You know, I felt like if Oda came out and revealed, like, oh yes, the reason Black... I don't know why Oda is talking in a bit of bombastic tone, but if Blackbeard came out and was like, yes, yeah, the reason I have all these devil fruits is because I keep them in my jewelry. I don't know, I would be kind of disappointed by that. I'd be like, oh, come on, really? That was the twist this whole time? Man, no, it's something weird going on with his body, and I don't even know if that might even confirm it's not another devil fruit. People have thrown out the idea that he has, like, the mythical Cerberus fruit, and that allowed him to have 3 heads, and he can have a devil fruit power for each head, so Yami Yami, and then the Gura Gura, and he could get something else, too. I don't know, but all it says is, yeah, his body is different from the norm. That's pretty much all it says. Doesn't say anything about devil fruits, having other devil fruits, doesn't say anything specific, but at least it confirms that it's his body, not something he's wearing. So there's that. Okay. Oh, and he also is confirmed to use observation and armament, so we figured, but there you go. I also probably think he's going to have Conquerors given. Not confirmed here, but, you know, one of the major villains of the series, and that fact that he's kind of starting his own little rule as a Yonko, and all the other Yonkos have Conquerors. I'm pretty sure he's going to have Conquerors. So now, moving on to the rest of his crew, the initial crew that was introduced at Jaya. First, we have Jesus Burgess, or Jesus Burgess, however you want to say it, to... You know, add this pun even further, his birthday is on December 25th. Biblical Jesus most likely was not born on December 25th, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah, there's increasing the level of, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so his epithet is the Champion. We already knew this. We know a lot about Burgess because he appeared at Dressrosa. We hadn't really got a lot of information from Augur or Lafitte or Doc Q since the time skip, but Burgess is the one of the Blackbeard pirates that has appeared the most prominently since then. So we know a lot about him. Now, we get all of the original crew's starting bounties here, including Blackbeard's, which was 0, Burgess's starting bounty before the time skip, and I'm also assuming this is before he joined up with the Blackbeard crew. This is something that needs to be expanded upon. Like, Blackbeard was working, you know, under Whitebeard, and he was laying low until he got the Yami Yami no Mi, then he got it, then he killed Thatch and defected from the Whitebeard crew. You'd think that Blackbeard would already have his crew ready to go by the time he defected. So he'd at least have somewhere to go to. He would have allies. He would have a ship. I don't think it was like Blackbeard takes out Thatch, takes the Yami Yami no Mi, jumps off the ship with absolutely no plan on where to go or what to do. I think that maybe under the scenes he was gathering followers, and that was in Burgess and Augur and Q and Lafitte. Don't know how he made those connections, but we'll find out probably later. But yeah, his starting bounty was 20 million berries. Jesus Burgess, okay? So, yeah, he's a brawler, just a straight-up fighter. He doesn't have a devil fruit. He fights with hockey. We've seen that, like, Hado Elbow! And so he's a pretty buff dude. He was the helmsman on the Blackbeard crew. He's now the first pirate of the Titanic captains that, you know, controls the first fleet of Blackbeard's ships. You know, Blackbeard apparently very much trusts him. You know, he was one of the very first to join. He might have been the very first to join, because you look at Burgess, and on top of seeing a Mexican luchador, you also seem kind of a meathead. Burgess has never been the sharpest crayon in the box, you know what I mean? So maybe Blackbeard just found this super buff guy hanging out around the Grand Line, and, you know, he's like, you want to join my crew? You know, I have this awesome darkness power. We can rule the freaking world. And Burgess is like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And he just went. It might have been the easiest to gather, but yeah, Blackbeard very much trusts him, so he's the first fleet captain here. He is a confirmed user of observation and armament. So there we go. We have that. So yeah, 20 million. Also to note, out of all of the original members, I think he has the lowest bounty. Yeah, he does. Aside from Blackbeard himself, who had 0. Yeah, he has the lowest. I can understand him getting his bounty. He might, keep in mind, these, like, Lafitte was not a pirate before Blackbeard. You know, Burgess might not have been a pirate. He might have just been a guy going around town just wrecking the place, and he got a freaking bounty of 20 million put on his head. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they might have not have become straight-up pirates until allying with Blackbeard. Okay, moving on to Van Augur. I love Augur. Augur is so cool. He's the collected member of the crew. He's a sniper, and a thumping good one at that. And as oh, by the way, when I did the first video on the Blackbeard crew back in November, when we were talking about the ones that got introduced during Impel Down, like Wolf and Davon and Pizarro, we find out which captains of the ships they rule over, and the 3rd and 9th spots were open. So I figured the 3rd was going to be Augur, because he was one of the original crew, and the 9th would have been Doc Q, because that was the only one left. There is the 10th ship slot that's still opened. Artur thinks it's Kuzan. I also said in that video, I think it's going to be Kuzan as well. Not sure what the relationship is like, but who else would it be? It's either Kuzan or it's somebody else Blackbeard recruited that we just haven't seen yet, that he trusts enough to make a captain of one of his fleets. So far, I'm just going to say it's Kuzan. All right. But yeah, Augur is the captain of the 3rd ship's fleet. He is known as Supersonic Van Augur. Here's a fun fact. He's from the East Blue. And all I have to say about that, and the reason that that's pertinent, is a lot of really good snipers are coming out of the East. Yasopp, Usopp, Augur, Daddy Masterson, if you were a fan of the Logtown Light novel, who also, by the way, Oda wanted Daddy Masterson to appear in the manga, so maybe in his mind he still considers him canon. But a lot of really good sharpshooters coming from the East. And also, you look at Yasopp and Usopp's hair and Augur's hair, kind of, it's curly. It has the same, I don't know. Augur is Usopp's uncle. Uncle Van, we thought you died in that horrible rodeo clown accident. And it's like, yes, you left me for dead, but I've returned. Yeah, I love Augur because he has that giant rifle he carries. By the way, the name of that thing, we found out about this years ago. I didn't know what the name of his gun was, but it's Senriku, which means 1,000 lands. But I love that thing, because Augur is very tall vertically, super tall dude. I didn't think to write down his height, but really tall, lanky guy, and he's carrying this super long rifle, and it's just, like, whenever he busts that thing out, it's just, he's so fast with not just how he fires it, but just how he loads the thing. When he was fighting Ace, or, you know, it's just great. It's just like, and flies like 1,000 freaking meters away, and shoots him right between the eyes. That dude is awesome. I think it's, I mean, if there was going to be any obvious pair-ups in the Blackbeard crew versus the Straw Hats, Van Augur has to fight against Chopper. I think it's pretty obvious. No, Van Augur has to fight against Usopp. And that would be such an epic fight, because it would be this, like, epic rifleman against a slingshot. And Usopp would maybe come out alive. Maybe Usopp would take his slingshot and shoot like a freaking pop green, and it would get lodged right in the barrel of Augur's gun, and just, it would sprout weeds everywhere, and then Augur busts out like he's got, like, twin pistols behind him, and has all these guns on him, and derringers and shit, and he's just like, and it's just ridiculously fast, and all of his shots are, like, pinpoint accurate, and it's amazing. I love Augur, okay? I don't know if you guys knew I had such a big Augur boner, but now you do. Also, his glasses. The fact that his glasses has the crosshair, that is such a cool design. I love that. All right, so Augur, his starting bounty, 64 million, which is pretty impressive. It is the second highest bounty out of the original starting crew. Don't really know. You know what? He looks like a hired gun to me. He looks like the kind of guy that you hire as a sniper to, like, take out a major political figure or somebody in the One Piece world. You know what I mean? You ever play Final Fantasy VIII, Irvin? You know, that's the kind of, he's like Irving, you know, or is it Irving? Whichever. I haven't played FF8 in a long time, but, you know, he seems like that guy. Like, you give him enough money and he's like, he'll get the job done no matter what, for a price. And maybe he very well did that for a while. Hired gun, hired mercenary, and yeah, he got the bounty of 64 million, and he's from the East Blue. Pretty damn cool. And on top of that, he's just one of the more cool, collected members, you know, whereas Blackbeard is always like, "Say, the dreams of men will never die," and Burgess is like, "We, Captain!" Augur's always like, "Yes, indeed. But we must pay attention to what is directly in front of us, Captain." Not really that smart in the moment when Magellan was walking toward them. I'm sorry, I'm never going to get over that. It's like, you think if there was ever a moment where Augur should have, you know, peeked up there, like, "Captain, do you think walking in front of a giant vat of poison is basically a good idea?" You know, But next up, we have Lafitte. Lafitte, the Demon Sheriff. And we already know Lafitte comes from the West Blue. He was a sheriff there. He was a law enforcement officer, but he had very cruel methods. And it was because of this that he got a bounty of 42,200,000, all right? So it's a third highest bounty, which, by the way, you might have figured out at this point, the highest bounty out of the original crew, including Blackbeard, because Blackbeard had 0. That's right, the highest bounty was Doc Q. That is interesting. Doesn't that just peak it like, whoa, okay, what's going on with that old man? We find out he's not an old man also. I'll get to Doc Q in just a second, but few things about Lafitte. He's 41 years old right now. He was 39 before the time skip. He is originally from the West. We knew that. So he's devil fruit, right? If it is a devil fruit. So we've seen this only a few times in the series. I think it was much more prominent in one of the openings. But Lafitte has the ability to create wings. And I forgot about this during the flying devil fruit video I made last week. I was going through all of the different abilities that allow flight. Completely forgot about Lafitte's because we aren't sure it's a devil fruit. He can just spawn like a pigeon or dove wings from his own arms, and he can fly with that. And it's not directly stated it's a devil fruit. Oda basically teases us with it. He's basically like, it could be a devil fruit, but on the other hand, it could also be it's like, it could also be, I don't know. So, it's a little weird, I will say, if it is a devil fruit, because if he did eat just like a traditional zone, like the pigeon, like the bird fruit model pigeon, or the bird fruit model turtle dove, or whatever, just, you know, the way that Pell turned into his hybrid form, he was still very clearly, like, he had the beak and the feathers all over his body, as well as the wings. Whenever Lafitte goes into that form, it's just his arms turning into wings. Everything else about him stays the same. I don't think he grew talons for his feet, and maybe he did, but I just remember him growing the wings, the white wings, and everything else about him, his face, his skin, all that stays as pale as it always was, so... You know, keep that whatever you will. He was also the oldest member of the crew, because he's 41 when he joined up. Blackbeard was 40. I don't know how old Augur was or Burgess was. I didn't write that down. But Doc Q, moving on to him. The Doc, 26 years old at the start of the series. He's 28 right now. Yeah, so this is really fun. Okay. So, he is the 9th ship captain, which is what I figured. He has a frail body and poor health since childhood, as well as his horse, Stronger, because the joke with them is, you know, he's riding on the back of this pale horse, like he's the pale horseman of death from the 4 horsemen from Revelations, but it's also like the horse itself is also deathly. Gallop, trot, and like, oh, Stronger, get over there. So, he looks very old, but he's actually in his 20s, and he's also has the epithet of Shinigami. And he has a bounty at the beginning of the series, before, we assume, before he was even allied with the Blackbeard crew, 72 million. 72 million. I'm going to repeat that again. That's higher than Luffy and Zoro's first bounties, respectively. 72 million. It's higher than Bellamy's bounty. He was introduced during Jaya, the same time that Bellamy was introduced. That's impressive. at that time. That is very, very an impressive number. Now, why would the world government give a sickly, seemingly deathly ill person that high of a bounty? There has to be something going on here. Now, it also mentions his little shtick is because he's the Shinigami, his epithet, he feels like it's necessary to, like, judge people. So he has a basket of apples. Some of them are explosive. In fact, most of them are explosives. Only, like, maybe 1 or 2 of them are fine. And he'll present somebody, he's like, 1 an apple, young man! Never take food from strangers, kids. But Luffy does. And he takes an apple, and he takes a bite into it, and his apple was a normal apple. So that kind of proved to Doc, like, he is special, he didn't die, you know, that kind of crap. So I don't think, though, but does that warrant a 72 million berry bounty? Like a 28-year-old that looks like a 78-year-old walking around town passing out explosive apples like some weird version twist on Sleeping Beauty? I mean, that's a threat. It's certainly a threat. You want to make sure the kids stay away from him, but is it worth 72 million? I don't think so. He also carries around a scythe, which he fights with. He also used it to attack Whitebeard with. But there has to be something else going on here. So I think, it doesn't say anything about him having a devil fruit or what, but I think he has some sort of really powerful paramecia fruit, kind of similar to Magellan's Doku Doku, except it works with diseases. So he can literally, if he wanted to, and he doesn't use the ability just rampantly, because if he would, it would cause a lot of damage. But if he wanted to, he could just create maybe a fog of just the worst diseases possible. Like he could cough. And, like, anybody that gets in contact and inhales this, or it comes in contact with their skin, like pustules start, like the Black Plague just gets on, like, ah! And they all pass out and they die. Something along those lines. Now, he doesn't use it because if he did, it would maybe affect his other crewmates, so he wants to be very careful on when he uses it, but he has used it before on various islands. Also, Doc Q comes from the north. And that's significant because I think the North, man, the Germa come from there, Dofi comes from there, Law comes from there. A lot of heavy hitters are coming from the North. X-Drake is from there, freaking Hawkins is from there. So I think the North is the strongest sea. A lot of heavy hitters are coming from there. I think Doc Q, he has this disease power that can just wipe out an island in a day or two. Kind of the same thing with, like, Caesar's gas weapons, except it's actually effectual. Like, if Doc Q went to Zoe, he could, like, and wipe out the Minx really in one day, as opposed to what freaking Caesar's weapon did. How good that went. But yeah, 72 million, man. Watch that, man. Watch this guy. There is something way more than meets the eye with the Doc. Alright, so yeah. Now, that is pretty much it when it comes to the Blackbeard crew. We don't find out much more about Stronger. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people were waiting to find out. Like, okay, what's the deal with Stronger? What is his favorite color? It's pale blue. But anyway, yeah, we do get some more information about the Skypeans, but I didn't put that in here. We got some information about Mashira and the other monkey dude, I forget his name. We got Mont Blanc Noland and Mont Blanc Cricket. If you want to see more about them, link below to the Library of Ohara, but it's really nothing really all that interesting. It's more of just like favorite foods, birthday. Oh! In terms of birthdays, I have another piece of information here that is a little weird. So, Oda gave birthdays to, like, weird things in this. He gave birthdays to inanimate objects, like, you know, this is the most random thing ever, and I swear I'm not making this up. You know, during Whiskey Peak, when Igaram was disguised himself as Vivi, quite attractively, I must add, and he had those, like, fake dummies with him, and the dummies were like, okay, I'm gonna pretend to be Princess Vivi with these dummies that are supposed to be all of you, go out to sea so they'll think we're trying to get away, and then he gets destroyed, and, like, the ship gets attacked and blown up by Mrs. Allsunday, Robin. So, those dummies that he carried, those were given birthdays for some reason. I don't know. And that's not the weird thing. Remember when Luffy and Usopp were making snowmen on the Going Merry when they were heading to Drum? They were trying to find Nami a doctor. They were entering the perimeter, the weather space around Drum Island, so it started to snow. This was the first time in the One Piece world we've seen snow. And so Usopp and, you know, Luffy are like, oh, snow! We're gonna start making snowmen! Oda gives birthdays to those snowmen, which in turn gives an actual date for the standings of when One Piece takes place. So, when Luffy and Usopp are making snowmen and they're approaching Drum Island. That occurred on February 18th, whatever random year the One Piece world take place in. But that is weird. Don't you find that weird? I find that kind of weird. So yeah, February 18th. It's very, very strange. And it gets weirder somehow. The dummies that Igaram had, they were given birthdays, as I said. Their birthdays, though, are February 19th. Yeah, I don't know if Oda's trying to mess with us. So it's like, Igaram makes these dummies on February 19th, goes out to sea, gets attacked by Miss All Sunday, ship blows up, the other Straw Hats manage to get away, they go to freaking Little Garden, have the adventure on Little Garden with Mr. 3, Mrs. Golden Week, the Giants, dinosaurs, all that crap. They finish off Mr. 3 and Mr. 5, they escape through the freaking giant goldfish, and then Nami starts getting sick, and they start approaching freaking Drum Island, and this is apparently the day before that all of the Whiskey Peak stuff happened. So you take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if that was an accident on Oda's part, if he meant to flip it, but even with that case, that means the entirety of Drum Island and everything leading up to Drum, the entirety of Little Garden and everything leading up to Drum occurred in one day. So that's a little weird. So yeah, don't maybe try getting the specific dates involved too much in One Piece, Oda. I think just you could tell me like, oh, this event occurred 2 weeks after this, or Reverie is 5 days. You could keep it nebulous, but don't be like, Reverie occurs from October 30th to November 5th, to be like, you don't need to do that, but... yeah, okay. So, the rest of this information, we got some information on Vanderdecken and Pekoms and Tamago. I just wanted to discuss this very briefly. Okay. So, Vanderdecken, the only interesting information about him is not really about him, but the way that certain lands handle wanted criminals. So, Vanderdecken has a wanted poster, but it's not a wanted poster that was issued by the world government. Because the Ryugu Kingdom does have, ties with the world government. It's a little shaky, but they do have connections with it because of Jinbei and everything. But it's still at the very bottom of the ocean, so they have their own kind of police force and army, and it's very isolated. So it would make sense that they would have their own little bounty system down there. So Vanderdecken is a wanted man, but he doesn't have a bounty. It's just like, Vanderdecken, wanted! Vanderdecken the Ninth. You find him, bring him in. That's basically how it works. Pekoms, let's see here. Let's see. 330 million berries, we already knew that. Has never really been good at controlling his Sulong, we knew that. I just put this in here mostly because of the episode we just got. That was pretty epic. I'm glad we got to see a lot more of Sulong Pekoms in the anime, because in the manga, that was a disappointment. In the manga, it was just like, go, damn it! And he gets taken down, just like that. Let's see. His fate after Sulong at Cacao Island isn't talked about in the VIVRE card, which... That kind of blows, because it's like, they were right, the last time we saw Pekoms, it was like, let's gouge his eyes out so he can't turn back into the Sulong, and that's the last time we heard of him, so, did he lose his eyes? Is he still alive? Did he manage to escape? I don't know, man. Doing these videos makes me thirsty. Okay, so, yeah, I basically just wanted to put it down in there for that, because it's like, oh, what happened to Pekoms? We don't know. Crap. Okay. I'm assuming he's not dead. I'm just gonna hope that he's not dead, because I don't think Oda would have capped him off screen, because he was, I don't want to say a really, really important character, but, a central figure in Dotland. As for Tamago, 429 million berry bounty, grew up in the Grand Line. Let's see, this is just talked a little bit more about how his Tama Nomi works, we already saw this in an SBS, Oda already talked about this, but the cycles through the forms. So he goes from Baron Tamago to the Viscount chick, and to Count Niwatori, or the Duke chick. Was it Count or Duke? I can't remember. I think it was written down here. But, he just goes through that, and then when his, Count Chicken form is destroyed somehow, he just loops back around to, the egg form. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? To answer that question, legitimately, a non-chicken had an egg that became a chicken. At some point in history, I don't know the exact date, maybe it was February 18th. February 18th, that was the day that the non-chicken, or the very closely related relative to the chicken, had an egg that would hatch and become a legitimate chicken, what we would consider today. There you go. Alright, February 18th, on whatever random year that would have been. So, that's everything for here, but... next time, the next pack we're getting in March is going to be a big one, because it's another starter pack. So what they've done when the VIVRE card data book came out, I think it was last September, they had like the binder, like here's the binder, and here's like a whole bunch of cards to get you started, the starter pack. And then after that, they've released 2 boosters every month since then, okay? But now, coming in March, we have the reveal of a second starter pack, so it's gonna be a lot of stuff. Lot of stuff to unpack with this. We got Sabo, Bragi, Dory, Sengoku, Garp, Suru, Kuzan, Isho, Roswald, Shalulia, Charlos, Rob Lucci, Stussy, and the Going Merry and the Thousand Sunny. So, let's talk about this. And Artur even mentioned this. He's like, okay, so we have the slots that are reserved for the Straw Hat crew in the data books, okay? Because you take out the cards and you put them in the slots, and there's a predetermined number of slots. Like, these slots are only reserved for the Straw Hat crew. So 1 through 9 makes sense. Luffy to Brook. Then you have 10, 11, and 12. 10 was confirmed to be Jinbei. He's part of the crew. And then you had 11 and 12, so that got a lot of people excited, me included. Carrot's gonna join, but I scaled that back a little bit. I'm like, if Oda was going to introduce a new Straw Hat, would he first have that information appear in a data book in supplemental material? That is some big info to just drop on somebody in supplemental material. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure Oda planned on Jinbei becoming a member of the crew a while ago, but it's not like in the data book that preceded VIVRE card. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Blue Deep. The data book that preceded the VIVRE card data book, it's not like it talked about Jinbei definitely becoming a member of the crew. All right? Oda, if he's gonna reveal a new crew member, it pretty much has to be first revealed in the canon of the story. Now, you might say, it's like, well, but Jinbei was revealed in the VIVRE card. No, he really wasn't, okay? Because I think the vast majority of people, considering that line Luffy and Jinbei had at the end of Totland, that pretty much cemented right there Jinbei was going to be a member of the crew. A few people doubted it, and maybe that's why Oda put it in here. Like, okay, I'm just gonna clarify it for everybody. Most of the people know he's gonna join. He's the 10th member, but just to throw it in, 100%, no doubts, Jinbei is the 10th member. But I think it was definitely diggity damn laid out concretely. He was the next member at the end of Totland. That was already set in stone. And the VIVRE card was just to set that up. Now, as for Carrot, I would love for her to join. But even if she was going to join, I don't think Oda would just put it here in the VIVRE card. All right, and, you know, that's just how it goes. I don't think so. So, the 11th and the 12th slots, as you figure, are going to go to the Going Merry and the Thousand Sunny, because they, are, of course, are members of the crew, because they were the loyal ships. So, there's that. So, not that much information revealed, like big information in this VIVRE card set, but next month's going to be a really big one. Once again, a million shout-outs to Artur. I do not envy you for the next booster, not even a booster, the next mountain of a starter pack. All I can say, man, if you need any help in any way, just let me know, all right? Because this is going to be a big one. I can't read Japanese in the slightest, but if you need any help, I can help you out with that, all right? If anything's within my power, because this is going to be a big one coming up. But thanks, man, to what you do, and thanks to all the fans. I gotta go feed what's ever on the other side of that door. Do you really want to see what's on the other side of this door? Nah, you don't want to see what's on the other side of this door. Bring the package back. Did anybody get that reference? That was a Courage the Cowardly Dog reference. This Courage in the big stinking city with that giant cocker. That was horrifying as a kid. They open up that door and it's that lady, that claymation lady, playing the violin. Oh man, it's horrifying. But yeah.